Hey guys, Edgar here, welcome back to my channel. Hope you're having a beautiful and fantastic day like always. In today's video, we're going to be talking about interviews, specifically on how I prepare for my interviews. I'm going to give you my pre-interview tips, my during interview tips, and my post-interview tips. So hopefully if you guys are interested in that type of content, make sure to leave a like down below. Also comment down below what type of information, what type of things do you do for your interviews to prepare, and any success stories that you guys have. And at the same time, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a video. I upload a video every single week. And without further ado, let's get into the video. First of all, before delving into all these interview tips and stuff like that, all this discussion that we're gonna have, I want to say that interviews are not supposed to be like flex fest, if that makes sense. It's not supposed to be an opportunity for you to overly compensate or overly impress your interviewer, because you in a way already did that. You guys already impressed with your interviewer, a manager, etc., the company that you're applying for, with your resume, with your cover letter, with your networking, with your phone interview, etc. And what you have to do is just paint the personality, paint the picture of that candidate. Just focusing your energy and really connecting with your interviewer, if that makes sense. That in 2020, and like I alluded to the previous video, hiring managers and companies, they want to hire unique people. They want to get unique, cool, interesting people, interesting employees that can really raise the stock of their companies, and at the same time really make an impact. Okay, so with that being said, that's enough of a little background on interviews, and now let's get into the nitty-gritty. Let's get into how I prepare for my interviews. So what I do for my interviews, when I'm applying for a company, I obviously research about the company. I research and try to see if I have anyone in my network that knows or works in the company, or have previously worked with that company. I also look for their goals, their products, their services that they're providing, their stock as well. I want to see the reputation of that company as well, and using Glassdoor reviews, kind of like what people say about that company. And what I do mostly is it's kind of like a power play, because during interviews they're going to be asking if you know about the company. Do you know what we do? Do you know our mission statement? Do you know like people in the company? And for you to say yeah because I reached out to someone, or yes because I know this person, it can be a family member or a friend of a friend. You can say that you looked at, for example, their YouTube channel, they have one, or their Twitter, or on LinkedIn, or on Google like news and stuff like that, and see what the company is about. I check obviously their website and see like what type of opportunities they offer, and that in a way kind of sets you up for success, because in that sense you don't have to like really not waste time, but really invest time in your interview asking questions about the company, and without getting out of the way because you already know about it. This is something that I learned. If you get that out of the way, talking about the company, you can actually talk about yourself more, and then you look even better versus other candidates, because then you can talk about your hobbies, or the type of person you are, or your experiences. One thing that I do that is very important, that I tell my mentees when they're going to interviews, is try to always research your hiring manager or your interviewer if that's possible. Usually you do, because when you're talking to HR and stuff like that, and they set up times where you can do your interviews or be conducted for your interviews, they usually have a list of the people, the interviewers that are going to be asking you questions. So what I do is I look them up in LinkedIn and other forms of media, like on Google and stuff, and see what they've done. See if I can find a profile and kind of see the type of person that I'm going to be working with. And at the same time, it's not creepy if you don't approach it creepy. That's like something that I said in my previous video. But basically, you want to research the type of people that are working in the company, because they're going to paint the picture on what that company really is. Also, by researching them, you can actually ask them questions at the end of the interview about their hobbies, about their job, what they do, how they like it, any team dynamics, if they're like a manager and stuff like that, longevity in working with this company, or longevity in general in the industry. Also, another thing that I do to prepare for my interviews is also think about, in a way, like the angle that I'm approaching the interview. And I say this because there's going to be several different types of jobs that you're going to be applying for. It can be like full-time positions. It can be your first time full-time position. It can be contractual jobs. It can be like contractual jobs or contract jobs, or they're jobs for a specific amount of time. So I always have this approach into what I'm applying to. So let's say, for example, for me, if I'm a newcomer, I'm just graduated from college and I'm applying for the professional world for the first time. My angle, honestly, would be I want to grow because I have the academia to support what I do, but I want to get the technical, the really nitty gritty, the application sense of my academia, and I want to learn by that in your company. So when you're approaching your angle during interviews, it should be always that angle of I want to learn and I want to really grow, and I think I can grow with your company. Now, also what I do to prepare for an interview is look at my resume. I always look at the experience that I have, see if I have the latest and greatest experiences that I have in my in my resume. Sorry. And basically create stories with that. So I always have for example, if my angle is going to be I want to learn, I always have stories, I always have experiences or bullet points in my resume that drives in stories, natural stories. Like I alluded to in another video that I did, basically for internships, how I get most of my interviews because of my Taiwan internship that I did a couple of years ago. And then basically how I create this story, which is not really a manufactured story, it's actually something that genuinely happened, but I paint the picture of like the struggles that I did, that I had to overcome in order to deliver a successful medical device. That I definitely recommend you guys to do is really create a live document. Really try to create a document that speaks out to you. It's not robotic language and stuff like that. Really use pop-up jargon, pop-up diction that also, in a way, it's easy for you to trigger memories and tell those memories to your interview. Quick pro tip: never memorize your resume verbatim, because at least maybe it can work for you, but at least for me, it just distracts me if I don't say specifically every single word of my resume, because I just get completely lost and I just add some filler words, and it just seems like I'm trying to remember stuff instead of like genuinely just saying stuff. Your resume should be, like I said, a timeline of your experience, a window of what you've done. But at the same time, if you are having a hard time remembering and conversing with your interviewer, not only will you look like you're nervous, which is fine, but you look unprepared. So I always have just key words in my resume that just trigger memories, and I know what to talk about because I practice them with my loved ones or my friends and stuff like that, or with my mentees. It's a really interesting way for me to like practice saying my resume, and then every time I say it, I can see what piques interest, like what I'm saying. So specific experiences when I'm talking is like, oh, it gets a reaction. So for me, I can just remember that part, and I can just narrow the long story of my internship into simple bullet points, and then it's easier for me to just like say them because I already know by practice what to say and what will get a positive response. Okay, so let's say that you did all of the things that I just told you to do, which big thumbs up because you did. Now let's get into the day of the interview. So you already prepared, you know your resume, you research about the company, you research your interviewers, so you're set. You're dressing professional and fresh. That's our motto here in this channel. And at the same time, you got this. You have everything. You have all your documentation, your portfolios, and everything. Your letters of rec if you need some, or recommendations. So now at the day or the day, I should say, of the interview, what I do is I try to listen to music that pumps me up. I hydrate myself a lot, and I recommend this. No, don't overdo it because then you have to go to the restroom a lot. But really do bring your own water and be prepared, because you're going to be talking a lot. Usually you don't really think about this because you think I'm going to be the one being questioned, but realistically the interview is going to ask you a question and then you're going to be the one talking the most. And I always find myself being the one that talks the most, and that's a good thing because then you control the situation, you control the interview. If you don't really talk a lot and the interview is not getting live, then that is an opportunity for anxiety to kick in. And that's going to really not be a suitable and like friendly, comfortable situation for you. So what I recommend is always going into the interview with a thankful mentality, thankful mindset. That's something that I do. Is basically I'm going to paint this picture. You, out of like thousands or hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of applicants, apply for that specific position that you're applying to. Let's say you got an interview because you're at this stage. Obviously, you're listening to this. Let's say you're already at your interview. that means, and when they do interviews, they're not interviewing thousands, they're interviewing, if anything, like hundreds or maybe tens or dozens of people. So let's imagine, I always imagine this, I always imagine like 100,000 people applying for that job, and then out of nowhere there's only 20 people that they're considering candidates for, especially if you already went through your phone interview and now you're in your in-person interview. So that to me speaks volumes. That to me speaks like I'm actually, competent. I have the experiences, I have the capabilities for this type of positions and stuff like that. I don't know, that just feels like super something amazing. I know that wasn't the best way to word that, but it just sounds amazing. It's just pretty cool and pretty amazing to feel validated in that sense. And then, you're selected from a few to a few people who are like the best representation of that company. And for me, that just pumps me up. A little pep, that little, spark of saying there's a chance I can do this. And with that being said, guys, thank you so much for giving me a little bit of your time, and hopefully you have a beautiful and fantastic day. And remember that let's together become profresh. That's our motto, that's our brand, basically your brand. Your brand is going to be profresh, how to be professional and fresh at the same time. Thanks, guys. Also, guys, make sure to check out this video. I think that's recommended by YouTube, of all things. But I recommend this video to check out. Subscribe, and hopefully you guys have a good day. Peace.